I'm Nick Bernardoni. I'm in Nevada City at the Old Republic Brewery. Come check it out if you have a chance. I'm sitting here with Juan Browne, and his YouTube channel is blancolirio?
Blancolirio.
Blancolirio, alright. I think I got it right. I know a lot of people are calling you Blanco. But
that's a funny story too. That's really started out as my wife's YouTube channel. I took it over, but the name stuck. I never changed it. Now I can't change the name.
I was actually going to ask you about that. Like,
yeah.
So that's the story behind it?
It's her channel. She just streamed it up in the middle of the night one night. Blancolirio. She's from Spain. White Lily. But she's a California native. And the name is just stuck.
That is funny. That is funny.
Wasn't my idea.
I was trying to figure that out. I was like, I know your name is Juan Browne.
And to that extent, it kind of fits. It kind of works.
Yeah, a little bit.
I can barely speak a word of Spanish.
Juan here is willing to meet with me, and you guys all know him, and everyone's been watching him, so a little inside information from the inside man. So, tell me a little bit more about yourself. I know you're 777 pilot, is that correct?
Yeah, yep, commercial pilot, that's my day job. Been flying my whole life, and living here in the foothills of Northern California the whole time also. So between that and motorcycling as a hobby, that's kept me very busy. And YouTubing I've only been doing for about 10 years now. And just as a hobby.
It's still a while though.
Yeah, that's right. How long has YouTube been around?
How much more than that?
Yeah.
I mean, being an airline pilot, you must not have too much time home, right? Or do you?
It does afford you a fair amount of time. You spend about half of your life on the road and the other half of your life at home recovering from jet lag.
Yeah, I bet. It sounds like a crazy job.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. So, I also wanted to ask you, what are your press credentials? I know you definitely have them, but...
So, locally here we got this paper, the Grass Valley Union. It's the oldest periodical in the West. And like most periodicals, most newspapers are kind of struggling. How do we merge with the modern media and the coming of the internet age? And how do we get from print media to social media and everything else? So they picked up on some of my videos that I've been doing locally, and so I've been working with them, trying to help them make this transition and give them some of my video material. So I got a relationship established with the local paper, the Grass Valley Union, and the editor, Brian Hamilton, was wise enough, or he was bold enough to give me a press pass, perhaps against his better judgment, because he knows the kind of things I get involved with, and that has allowed me the access to get into, for example, the Oroville Dam situation.
Right from the beginning, too.
Right
from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Have you been covering any other news stories, or just learning this?
Not really. I mean, my whole YouTube thing has been a fun hobby, covering motorcycles, motorcycle adventuring, traveling throughout the West, old gold rush towns and that sort of thing, kind of a hobby channel. And then this Oroville Dam story broke, and that's kind of changed everything. That has gone so much more viral than anything I ever anticipated that I don't know what I'm going to do with my channel next. Am I going to just go back to motorcycles and do the fun hobby stuff, or get in more deeper into the subjects that we're opening up here with the Oroville Dam situation?
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a big hype right now, and people are excited about it, and what's next is a question for both of us, I guess.
Yeah. It's a big story, but it'll have a lifespan of its own. But then there's a lot of engineering and dam folks that are going to want to continue to follow this story for what could potentially be a couple of years or more
as everything gets rebuilt,
how they rebuild this thing. But it also leads to a much wider story, the entire California aqueduct system, aging infrastructure, politically a huge hot potato item.
It is a huge,
and I kind of want to avoid the whole political situation if I can, but it's inescapable.
Yeah, I mean, it is involved, but I also have been removing myself from that. So you just say one word on YouTube chat about politics, and
the whole conversation. That's a good point. Yeah, losing control. You gotta, if you're in the social media, and I don't know why government agencies can't seem to get a grip on this either. You got to get somebody full-time doing your social media and monitoring the conversation and throwing out the trolls and keeping the message on point. That's a full-time job.
There's a lot of those trolls out there lately. There is a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know where they come from or who they are, but people like to just mess around. But,
yeah.
We're both trying to get information out there accurately, and people, I don't know. No comment on it. Really.
Folks just, what I've learned from this video series is folks just love it if you can just succinctly tell them the facts of what's going on and explain why these are the facts and what the and avoid the excessive speculation. That's just gone really popular in this video series.
There is a lot of speculation out there, and I want to ask you some of your opinions about it. My opinion is that this is just caused just by neglect. Just people just didn't repair the spillway. It wasn't maintained correctly, and then water came. I mean, I think it was just a bad accident that happened. I know there's a lot of people out there saying it could be this, it could, it's Jerry Brown, or it's this, it's that. But I mean, I just want to know your brief opinion on that.
Well, like aircraft accidents, you really can't tell anything. Everything is just speculation until the final report comes out. So let's wait for the final report. But
which may take years.
No, they're good. They just formed the committee to do the report the last couple of days, and they're jumping on it right now, and they'll have preliminary data in real soon. If you listen to DWR's side of the story, they claim they've been following the procedures as the procedures are written, and they're claiming that perhaps the written procedures need to be updated and changed.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you listen to public opinion and you just look at the story, it looks like, is this a bigger story of lack of infrastructure, care, and budgeting in California?
Yeah, and from my research, dams are supposed to last about 50 years.
And here we are, 50.
49.
It's 50 years. It's time to upgrade this infrastructure, and it's going to get that huge upgrade right now, just like Folsom Dam recently has too.
Yeah, that's my hometown, and I mean the lake's empty, but they have a whole new spillway. Wish they would have put it up here, but.
So as far as what caused it, yeah, it's going to be. There's no one single event, or rarely one single event that just causes a big disaster like this. It's always in aviation. You learn it's a long chain of events, and so in order to prevent the accident, you've got to break the chain somewhere along the line. In other words, a lot of things got to line up for something this big to fail this dramatically. And so this report will line all those things up nicely and explain to us clearly what that chain of events was.
Okay.
And a good portion is going to be, what about that last inspection, and what about those cracks in the spillway, and what about the initial design of the spillway and shortcomings in the initial design?
Yeah, because from what I know, it was a modern marvel at the time when it was built. I mean, it's the biggest reservoir in California, 900
tallest dam.
Wall. It's massive, and I think a lot of people, including myself, were very surprised to see it go south this fast. It was,
the power of water is incredible, man.
After seeing the spillway today, I mean, videos.
That's right. Today was the first time you got to see it firsthand, huh?
At the bottom, yeah.
And what was your initial impression? Was like,
that's a lot of water moving very fast.
That was
my.
Yeah, you could feel it when you're down there, couldn't you?
It's a lot of water, and it's unbelievable. I used to go boating up there almost every day. I went to Chico State for a couple of years, and my friend and I had a little 17-footer to go out, and that was during the drought. So we had to go to the very bottom ramp that was probably a couple hundred feet below the spillway. And I just remember it was massive, and I mean, I don't know, it's just the power of that water to break
huge,
that. I mean, I remember driving over that spillway thinking that thing is just like the biggest skateboard ramp I've ever seen. As
a young guy, that's
my first thought. I just wanted to get on something with wheels and go down it. But at that time, I didn't know much about the infrastructure. I didn't know quite what that was. I knew like the water ran off there, but I couldn't see the bottom. I didn't really know what was going on.
Well, there's a lot we didn't know about this whole Oroville Dam structure until we started covering, myself included, until we started covering this story and figuring out how all the pieces of the puzzle come together.
Because they got the after bay, fore bay. Yeah, it's a very large system even after the dam.
And that's another reason why this story is so important is the Oroville Dam is the keystone of the entire California aqueduct system. It's the beginning of the entire California aqueduct system that feeds water to Southern California. I mean, yeah, you got Shasta Reservoir too, but
it goes to the Sac River and down that way.
Right,
yeah.
But Oroville is really the beginning of the whole thing, and why it's so critical that we have a healthy Oroville Reservoir, not only for flood control, but for water storage for the California aqueduct.
Yeah, yeah. So another question for you. Do you think they have it under control right now?
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's limping along, as you might say.
It's crippled.
Yeah, it's somewhat crippled, but they've got 2 ways to release the water. They've basically lost throttle control on the main spillway, but they've got the water level down low enough, below 850 feet. They've got enough control over the situation where I agree with Sheriff Honey, and I think he did a good job sticking to his guns. They've got enough control over it now to lift the emergency evacuation warning. So
yeah, and that was lifted
2 days ago on the 22nd.
Okay.
22nd of March. Yeah.
And I mean, I know that warning's been out for a while, and I went there 2 weeks after the incident, and people were still there. I mean, after the mandatory evacuation order was lifted, people came right back, and I feel like everyone was still there. I mean,
you felt like they'd come back too soon, or
no? I just feel like people. I don't know if this didn't have the means to stay away, like the financial means to stay out of the way of danger. But I went there, and restaurants, everything was just going as normal. People weren't acting like they were in danger. People seemed confident in their safety, to put it simply.
And a lot of people wanted to come back to guard their stuff, make sure their stuff didn't get looted or vandalized.
There was some bad crime on that first evac. I mean, some people died.
Really? I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, someone got their car hijacked and a lady was killed, actually. It's one of the first stories that came out. I remember a veteran, they looted his house,
that was a big story on KCRA. Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible what people do in that kind of situation, and just take advantage of human fear. But interesting question for you. So, I was there today. I saw that they have cameras in a few places pointed at the front of the spillway.
Right.
Why do you think that they don't want that to be shown? Just because it's not necessary, or?
Well,
I can't figure it out myself.
Those cameras that are pointing are for example, the Verizon trucks. Those are live feed to the folks in Sacramento to keep monitoring the situation constantly. What they release and why they release what they do to the public that's up to the Department of Water Resources, and why they show us what they do, and that's up to them. And I don't know if they have a really good understanding of what's the folks that are doing the video or releasing the video. I don't know if they really understand what is the public, what are folks like us that are really into the story, really interested in seeing. Exactly. I don't know if those guys really understand what the really cool shots are.
Possibly, yeah.
And also other shots maybe a little less than flattering of what's going on, or they think it'll be less than flattering. I would think a better job would be to put somebody on there that could explain what we're looking at while we're looking at it, and go ahead and show us the less than flattering stuff. I mean, it's all going to come out in the report anyways. So go ahead and show it.
And I mean, I know they release daily footage almost every day, drone footage and various footage. I just think a lot of this speculation that turns into some craziness online just comes from people who are like, why will they not show us the front?
Right. Why not just go ahead and show it and explain what you're showing to us, and just avoid this whole nonsensical speculation that goes on online?
It would calm things down, I think, for them, and that's why I don't quite understand.
That's where I think a lot of these government agencies are trying to adapt. And it's like press, media, public. How do they adapt to the speed of social media today? They just don't get it.
Yeah, it's very true.
It's so fast today.
And it's probably not going to help that I said earlier on my live stream, hey, there's a camera right here, I wonder why we can't see it, and then everyone gets worried. But
you see, the rest of us got to be careful too what we say, because everybody's watching all the time.
Yeah, it's lots of dynamics to the situation, that's for sure. Kind of back to the beginning of all this. Do you think we were close to a really big disaster?
Oh, yes. Initially, I didn't think so. As you probably noticed on that first video, I thought, I kind of said it out of glibness. Everything will be fine, but until you go on the scene and then go look at the present situation, and then you realize how close this whole thing could have come. And the point that I was making was, when you go look at that emergency spillway and the backside of the emergency spillway and realize how quickly that erosion occurred in other parts of the situation, if that emergency spillway had just begun to fail a little bit, how quickly that could have escalated into a huge disaster. Yeah, and so they did the right thing by evacuating when they did.
Yeah, they did. They got people out, and fortunately there were some, bad things and people leaving, but thankfully nothing did happen. The numbers are all pretty general with this, but from what I heard, if that emergency spillway or auxiliary spillway went out, it would send quite a bit of water down, even though it's just the very top part of the lake.
Right, and that's the part that, after looking at the lake, I think personally it would have been more than just the top 30 feet. That if that emergency spillway had tipped over, you got 30 feet of water. Well, that 30 feet of water is just going to start cutting, eroding, and I could see a scenario playing out where you would end up draining most of the reservoir.
Yeah, I mean, I know with the pronounced Teton Dam disaster, it covered 300 square miles. I believe that was smaller than Lake Oroville, right?
Yeah. You look at other dam disasters and you see how quickly erosion occurs. And you can quickly visualize how bad things could have gotten at Oroville if the emergency spillway had begun to start to fail. And so you notice now, they have no intention of running that emergency spillway throughout the rest of this season and next season until they completely rebuild that emergency spillway into something that replicates modern day standards, or bring it up to modern day standards.
I almost feel that was designed as if just a fail-safe so it wouldn't go over the dam itself.
Yeah, and I also kind of think maybe it was just kind of an eyewash item or a paperwork item. Okay, we got this requirement to put in this emergency spillway. We never intend to use it. And another point is they never planned for a spillway failure, a main spillway failure, to force them to use the emergency spillway. So to that extent, they were looking at that emergency spillway only spilling small amounts of water over the top in conjunction with the main spillway working really hard.
Exactly, and the high power plant, supposedly. So I know they were really rushing to get that back on. That was my first thought too. When I saw the spillway was eroding, I'm like, they need to get that power plant because that might be the only way they can get some water out. And now they were forced to get down to 835, I think is what they're trying to get to, so they had to open the spillway again at 40,000 CFS.
At 865, they let the water rise up to 865, turn the main spillway. That forced them to turn the main spillway back on and get that water level back down below 850, lift the evacuation order, and now the lowest they can go is 835, and that's where you get scouring from the inlet to the main spillway. So they'll be forced at that point to shut it off.
And then let it fill back up again.
And let it fill back up again. That's where you've lost throttle control of the main spillway. You can't, 40,000 CFS is the optimum flow. Any less than that, 40,000, you start eroding the head of the spillway.
Yeah, I was watching that in your video today, actually, right before I just came here.
And any more than that just causes excessive erosion downstream of the broken spillway and excessive debris in the thermal after bay and potentially closing of the high power plant again.
Yeah, it's a very
delicate balance.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a balancing act right now, completely.
Yeah.
So they are just trying to keep it going. The 40,000 kind of overshoot that new
plunge
shotcreted area.
Oh yeah. Right? Overshoot the repairs on the end, shoot it into the plunge pool.
Yeah. What CFS would you just think, on the top of your head, that it would take for it to actually just start cutting into that and eroding?
Well, you can see it whenever they open and close the spillway, and that's another reason why they want to minimize the number of cycles on and off of this whole thing. Is anytime you open and close, you got to go through zero or down to zero, and so it's the really low flows, I think, that are more cause more head cutting and erosion. That 0 to 20,000 CFS, I think, is where the biggest erosion problem is.
30 to 20.
No, 0 to 20.
0 to 20.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That would make sense. Yeah, it's They did some crazy work with that shotcrete though.
Yeah. Well, see, we gotta see what's going to be really fun to watch is how much of that shotcrete survived this spilling of the main spillway.
When it's all shut off again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I've never seen anything like that. I know a lot of people were like, "That's never going to work," you know. Just
yeah. Well, we'll see. Well, it might. I don't know.
Well, that's all the questions I have typed out. But I just want to ask in general. This isn't actually specific to Oroville, but what do you think about this weather in general? I mean, I've lived in California in this region my whole life. I've never seen.
Well, wait a minute. How long is your whole life now?
21.
Okay. Well, we've
years.
seen floods. We've seen Pineapple Expresses this bad and worse in years previously. So it's really nothing dramatically different or new here in Northern California. These kind of weathers and these kind of weather patterns, and they come about every 10 years or so, where you get these huge. You'll have years of drought followed by floods. It's just the weather's all over the map in Northern California.
And from the research I've done, it's about 100-year cyclic storm specifically what's going on right now. The geological survey said that about 100 years ago this happened, that there was this extreme drought. I know it's happened in minor form since, but that it's majorly has been pretty replicated 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's not terribly uncommon.
Yeah, so it's I'm just surprised, especially by your videos. You're just covered with snow and beautiful and look like
here locally, and then it turns to sunny, warm, and
yeah. And then I was like, did you record that before? Or like...
It takes a few days. I mean, in 4 days or so, and then it might be sunny and warm again. But that's springtime in the Sierras. It's highly variable weather.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any more questions for you specifically.
All right.
Do you have any just anything you want to talk about? Like any comments on the situation, or where we're going, or even what California's going to do downstream?
Well, things to watch for, stay tuned for, is to see what's going to be this becomes a very fun and interesting engineering problem, a very time-constrained engineering problem. We got to come up with a short-term, or they got to come up with a short-term solution to get us not only through this winter right now, but what are they going to come up with for next winter? They don't have time between now and next fall to completely restore or rebuild the spillways.
Because that takes a long time.
Yeah,
a lot of money, a lot of
Oroville.
concrete.
So you gotta come up with a plan and cut through all the red tape instantly, like unheard of in California history. Cut through all the red tape instantly to get a interim solution ready for next November. And then you got to tie in that solution in with the long-term solution, and so that they can all come together in a timely manner in between flood or rain seasons.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting engineering. I mean, I don't think they've had anything like this before in this short of a time period.
Yep.
So they're going to have to really do something crazy.
And then the other interesting thing will be to watch the politics of the situation and see, does this really, it's getting a lot of talk right now, but will they stick to their guns? Will this fundamentally change how we deal with our aging infrastructure in California and the rest of the nation?
It was a wake-up call.
Yep.
It was definitely a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I'm going to backpedal just a bit here. So, in my opinion, I think there's no hope in completely reconnecting that spillway back together. I mean, I don't see how they could.
No, and it just showed in my update today, looking at the report that just came out. The folks that are looking at the redesign of this thing are basically saying at this point, we got to scrap the old spillway. The final design is going to have to be a complete rebuild. But they're also suggesting that the final new design will closely replicate the present design, just bring it up to modern standards. But that brings up a whole host of questions. How you get over that plunge pool, things like that.
So you think they're going to continue using the top part of that structure?
Well, they have to this year.
This year, yeah.
And they probably will use that next year as well. And so what they'll, now you got me to speculating, but
sorry.
Here's what they'll probably
logical guess.
Adapt a ramp onto the main spillway, the front end of the main spillway, harden it up, ramp it, and allow it to plunge into the plunge pool for the rest of this year and next year. Meanwhile, they'll probably start on the downhill side of the spillway first and start building that up, and then finally put the two together.
That would make sense.
But we'll see.
Yeah, it's
I mean, another strong option could be go with this new canyon and just and run with that and forget the whole bottom end of the spillway. But so far reports indicate that I think they're gonna replicate very close to the present design.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I mean, that canyon's mostly bedrock, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and it looks pretty stable right now. But again, we'll know more about that after they shut off the spillway from this first design to get the drones and the mapping in there, and they can really tell how much wear and tear that canyon's taken.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think any screen or picture can give it justice to the size of that canyon.
Until you go see it in person?
Until you see it in person.
Yeah.
It is massive. I remember, like I said, I used to go there in college. I used to drive over there. It was a full hillside before. I mean, it's huge difference.
What's going to be really fun too, I hope in one of these future updates, maybe you can get together and go up there, and when things slow down, and get down inside that canyon and show some footage from down inside.
That'd be great.
And people could really get an idea of how big it is.
Hopefully they'll start letting a little more access in there.
Yeah.
I know I went today and I tried to get as close as I could, but they said, hey man, it's raining, it's way too busy, it's a safety hazard, we can't let you down in the construction site. So I'm gonna try to go back tomorrow and get,
And again, only with a press pass can you do this. You can't.
Yeah, exactly.